If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. I'm your host, Angela Grout, and I thank you for tuning in to yWrite, where you can learn how to write too. Because if you're a writer, this show has lots of information for you. And if you're someone who has that story inside you that you know needs to be told, then this show is where you need to be right now to find out different avenues of telling your story. So today, I'm dressed a little glittery for a specific reason because I have an award-winning playwright here on the show. And, you know, we all can tell our stories in different formats, but in order to tell a story on the stage, you need to have a lot of dialogue and you have to engage the audience. So my guest here today is the recent award winner of the 48-hour play festival at the Exit 7 Theater. And we're going to find out exactly what this 48-hour festival was like. So my guest today has written a play, and his name is Michael McMahon, and I want to welcome him here to the yWrite studio so that we can learn all about playwriting. Welcome, Michael. How are you?
Well, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'm so glad that you came in.
I
dressed all a little sparkly today, so you know I might match your trophy.
Yeah.
You won a Tony this weekend.
I did, but I mean, Angela, it's not like I walk around with it. Oh, wait.
How do you not walk around with it?
There it is. It's right here.
See?
I do walk around with it.
I mean, and you should walk around with it. You worked very hard for this.
I'm, you know, I don't know how great. I mean, it's a local theater thing, but it does. I feel absolutely great about it.
Well,
I really do.
You know, from what I know about the 48-hour play marathon, I'm calling it a marathon, is you had 24 hours to write a play.
Yes, and not just any play. They gave you prompts that had to be in there.
Yes. And the prompts, what were the prompts that needed
Well,
to be
here I was thinking I was pretty clever. I said, you know what? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to have this thing ready to go, and whatever prompt that they've got in mind.
Well, it's not cheating.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, I think they really discouraged people from doing that because they gave you 3 prompts.
Yeah.
And
you had to write.
Yeah, so this was my plan. I said, all right, at 7 o'clock on a Friday night, they're going to tell you what the play has to be about, and you have 24 hours to write it. It's got to be due by 7 o'clock Saturday, and then that night they were interviewing directors earlier in the day, and the directors were going to pick which plays they wanted to put on, and they were only going to pick 5. So then the 5 were put on the Sunday night. Yeah. And these poor actors had to learn the lines. They had
less than 24 hours.
And I think that the audience was very forgiving because a lot of them, had their scripts hidden pretty well, and it was obvious that some of them were. But I think you're pretty forgiving audience. I mean, they had. And they didn't have 24 hours. I mean, they were sleeping. I mean, they met at 10 o'clock in the morning or so. So my plan was to take a nap between 2 and 6 because I'm like, for all I know, maybe I'm going to stay up all night. And I'm used to being nocturnal, so I said I'm going to get up at 6, get something to eat. Once I get the prompt, I'm going to take a nice long shower and talk out loud in the shower. And once I found out that there were 3 prompts, you had to start off with a bang, literal or metaphorically.
Yes.
You had to kind of end with a reveal that would be devastating to one of the characters. And you had to have the number 40 be prominent in that. So I'm like, ooh, okay. And then I had the idea. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, this is like if Angela was doing this, she would have a murder mystery.
I would have written a murder mystery.
But I'm thinking.
I had thought to enter, but would have kind of maybe not got you in the
obviously
finals,
it would have knocked me out. I said, this is screaming drama. I got to go comedy because it'll stand out. Because
you have a niche for comedy for sure. You're a funny guy. You write funny characters. You have funny characters in your life. And I think that, for you not to do comedy would have definitely been a surprise for so many.
Right.
But I did have the honor to be a witness to some of this over the weekend. And I was actually surprised that there were a lot of comedy entries.
Were 4 out of 5 were comedies.
I was really surprised.
Yeah, I thought I had this unique idea.
But I think audiences are hungry to laugh.
Yeah, but that's why I thought, I'm like going, hey, you know what? If they have 4 dramas, they'll put 2 dramas, they'll put the comedy in the middle and the other 2 dramas. And No, it was the exact opposite. They put the drama in the middle, and all the rest were comedies. And I was a little surprised that these prompts inspired, unless they all had the same idea that I did, like, oh, I'm going to stick out by doing a comedy. And I apparently a lot of the other ones that didn't make it into the contest were dramas. So maybe comedy was the way to go.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was able to watch the final 5, you know, that were picked, and you know, searching for who was using the number 40. You know, how was that prominent, and the bang in the beginning, and I mean, the surprise at the end. Like you nailed it with all of them, and you know, I think it's great right now for our audience to see how the writer's mind works, because you know, yes, you get your prompts, and then you're going to go take a shower and talk it out loud, because you know, everyone has their different process of, you know, how they're going to
I like to take hikes, but 7 o'clock at night in January in Massachusetts is not the time to be taking a hike.
Definitely not the time. So, and this isn't your first play that you've ever written. Like, you're not new to the rodeo. You weren't saying, oh, I'm going to try this 48-hour
Well,
play
it's funny
festival.
because the Exit 7 is a prestigious local group, and they used to have play contests that would get like 400 entries from all over the world.
Yeah.
And I would always submit, and I would get close. I would get to the final table read, and I would always get cut. But I was upset. But I'm like, Michael, there's 400 plays. You can't be upset that you've come that close. So this felt kind of good to not only, like, I was thrilled to be partaking.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't get the critics, I didn't get the critics. They had judges, and the judges gave the best play award to another play.
Did they say how long it had to be?
Yeah, but between 8 and 13 pages.
Okay.
So they wanted it around 10 minutes.
Okay.
I won the audience award.
Yes.
I won the People's Choice.
He won the People's Choice.
People got the voice, and my actor
Tony Award, and your actor John got the
John Wolowitz. Yeah,
John Wolowitz. I mean, he got best comic performance.
Yep.
So you actually got 2 Emmys for that, or
he tied actually
Tonys.
with Andy Price. Andy Price was.
They were both
They
very
were fantastic.
hilarious.
Well, that's why I told him. I said, well, John, I said you tied somebody with a British accent. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Andy Price is fantastic, and he's
Now,
got
did
that
you
great
get to cast who was going
No,
to?
I sent it off. I cast
the
it on the
director.
was.
Did you choose your director?
No, the directors fought over which script, and according to my director, Mary, she said that she fought for this. She's like, a lot of people want it. She's like, I want it. I fought for it.
So it's interesting because as a writer, sometimes you think, for me, I would think like, oh, you get to pick who you're going to work with or who's going to direct this, who has the similar vision that you have, and yet here you're blinded. You don't know who's directing it. You don't know who's being
what they're going to
casted
do.
in the
And
roles.
she had every right to do whatever she wanted to. In fact, Woody Allen, one of the great writers of all time, that's why he became a director. He wrote the script to the original Casino Royale. And when he saw it, he was horrified. He's like, well, I can't believe you did that. You can't do that. Like, I'm the director. I can do whatever I want. And that's how he became a director, because he's like, I can't sit by and watch somebody, butcher my work.
Yeah. And you had so many scenes where there's so much action on the stage. Some plays, you can just have 2 people sitting at a coffee table and have the entire play done, and it's great, but you had a lot of action with people running around.
That's why I thought Mary should have won Best Director, but
she did a really great job with that, because that's what I was going to say is that written in your script as stage direction so she can follow it?
Yeah.
Or did she? Okay, so she really did honor your work. Yes.
Some play, and if she wanted to do it different, then that would have been her right. But it made sense, though. That's the way I saw it, and that's the way the characters jumping off the stage and yelling at the back of the theater and coming back on.
Yeah, and I actually would have loved to have even John on. I had talked to your leading man, John, just to find out, like, okay, what was it like he actually succeeded, memorizing this script, like, so quickly. And like you said, they were aiming for 8 to 13 pages, and your performance was about 20 minutes. So it was like a 20-minute show. That's 20 minutes of a lot of dialogue for 2 characters, to memorize. And not only was he able to memorize the lines, but execute them so perfectly.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when I finished writing everything, I'm like, all right, I still have like 2 pages of leeway here. Let's punch this up. Let's add a couple more jokes. And that's what I did, because I'm like, I wanted this thing to stand out. I wanted to get chosen. Then once I got chosen, then I'm like, all right, I'm in the playoffs now. Now I want to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's the mindset. The mindset was there. So when I know you took a shower, you thought about, your characters and what you were going to do with them. Do you make an outline or do you just start writing?
I just start writing, and then sometimes I realize that this may not be the beginning. This may not, this may be the middle. In fact, the very first thing I ever wrote, I was 19 years old in college, and I wrote a full-length musical libretto to impress a girl. Why would a 19-year-old boy do anything? And I did. And jokingly, I called it Act 1, Scene 5. And not knowing anything, but I knew it was going to be in the middle. And as it turned out, it actually was Act 1, Scene 5.
Oh, wow.
And it took me about over a year to write it. And any schmo can give a girl a flower. I wrote her a full-length, hour-and-a-half long libretto.
And did you perform it? Did she read it?
No, she read it, and then the music wasn't there. I wrote some of the song lyrics, but I'm not a music person. And she said that, all right, because I had been chasing after her for a long time. And she finally gave in after that. And she said, it's probably only a matter of time before you're rich and famous, and I should probably get it on the ground floor. Boy, I fooled her, huh? We were on again.
You're taking your time a little bit.
We were on again and off again after college for so long. Currently, we're off.
Oh, okay.
But I've been talking to her like about 30 years, so this off might be permanent.
Oh, yeah. And you're married.
And I'm married.
So there's a little obstacle
there.
there.
Yeah, I think the off is permanent.
So, well, but at least, you got it off the ground. You were able to complete your first play. I mean, since then you've written, I don't know, like 48 plays.
Yeah, I got 48.
Which is interesting that you did the 48-hour play festival and you got 48 plays. Some short, some longer, some that have been performed.
And some dramas. I have some dramas.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing them. We definitely do. I know you've had a few things performed at the Majestic Theater, and you actually have done stand-up comedy yourself, and you've acted in film. So you have a lot of experience, with audiences, whether live or not. Is acting something that you thought you would pursue?
Yeah, well, I mean, in college and high school, I did the talent shows, and I said, wouldn't it be funny to learn the Who's on First routine? And holy mackerel, I mean, the audience just ate that up.
Yeah.
And that put me, I'm like, I love this laugh. I love hearing the laugh. And then I joined the musical because one day I saw all these pretty girls, and I'm like, where are they going? Oh, musical. I think I'll audition for the musical. And
what's your motivation into going into musicals? Pretty girls.
Yeah, I mean that's in high school that's because as much as I love being on stage and strutting my stuff, I am kind of an introvert. I mean, even though I was a class clown.
So Michael and I did go to high school together. I'm going to share that. He was the class clown, and
she was class president.
I was the
cheerleader.
class president, and yes, I was the cheerleader. So I can.
We didn't cross in the same circles.
No,
we knew of each other.
Of you for sure.
I knew of you.
I remember seeing you in the Who's on First, and it was really funny. I knew you were a part of the musicals and things like that. But I was more into the academics and doing. Running class programs.
Yeah, your political career.
Well, it wasn't political, but I was just full of school spirit. That's what I had. So, knowing that, these things, kind of rooted us. And, from there, kind of took forth making, 48 plays and, performing on stage, doing comedy, which when you're doing comedy, it's not necessarily like the Who's on First. It's your own material.
Yeah, you're judged as a writer and as a performer, and that can be hard because sometimes, I think Jerry Seinfeld said it. You can say a joke and tilt your head to the left. It's not funny. Tilt your joke and say it to the right, and it is funny. Why? I don't know, but you got to go figure out what works and what doesn't.
It's true. So I was a florist for many years, and one of the conversations I've had with other florists is, if you go to a wedding and you see the flowers and they're beautiful, do you think, the bride has beautiful taste, or who is the florist? Like, those flowers are amazing. But if you go to a wedding and the flowers are, do you say, oh, the bride doesn't have good taste, or do you say, who is the florist? And, if a bride is coming to you with an idea that, as a florist, we want to make sure it's beautiful, but that's their vision, we have to fulfill their vision. And, it kind of puts our reputation on the line, because it's like, yeah, the bride's perfectly thrilled with all those orange spray painted daisies, and black roses mixed in. And we're like, no, don't do that for flowers.
And the groom doesn't care.
And the groom doesn't care, no. But, then the guest see those and goes, oh my gosh, who did those flowers? And it's like, well, the bride picked them out, and, I've, fulfilled them to what she wanted. I mean, I can honestly say in, the probably, 5,000 weddings I've done, and, sound like Jesus, the 5,000 loaves and fishes. I think it's more like 3,700, but still,
wow.
I can probably count on one hand the amount of time something like that may have happened.
I felt bad. A friend of mine was getting married, and I couldn't go, but she was marrying an older guy. And I said, well, I'll just go to your next wedding, which I probably shouldn't have said, but.
And was it her first wedding?
It was her second wedding.
Oh, so there could be a chance that there could be.
But I figured how long was he going to live? So.
Oh my God. See, this is the humor that he has, I mean, it's natural. It just kind of comes forth, and it's what society needs.
Yeah,
we need to laugh.
But I am proud of my dramas too. I know. I mean, I know that I'm probably known for the comedies, but I'm proud of the dramas too.
So the play that he did this weekend, I didn't even say the title of
it,
and I have to because it's
a
so
fun title.
Fun. It's Ow Wow Wow. So Ow Wow Wow
is a tribute to Tex Avery.
Tex Avery tribute, and you really gave the audience an education on Bugs Bunny and different music or different tributes to theater and to movies. So it's like we learned a lot along the way in this very funny play. And we also, got to see how you use the elements of the prompts, with the big ow, because it has to start off with a big bang. So, of course, you hear that word ow, but a lot of times during the show, you hear like, wow, wow, wow. So, your title, Ow, Wow, Wow, was that something that you knew was going to be, or how did you come up with the title?
I had the title. Sometimes titles are tough, and I had the title pretty quick. That in fact, originally it was going to be called Yow Wow Wow, but I didn't think that was as good. But banging, I'm like, ow, that makes more sense.
Ow Wow Wow, yeah, it was a great title, and I do know naming. For me, writing books, and I have written some plays, and I've worked on some screenplays. Trying to get the title. Sometimes you can get stuck on that. And you're like, okay, it has to make sense. It has to go with the flow. Sometimes it just comes just like that, and you're like, okay, that's what I'm going with.
My favorite title ever. I have a series. I love this play, Anna Banana Fofana, and the third play in the Anna Banana Fofana trilogy is called Anna Banana Fofana 3, The Godmother Part 1, The Final Chapter. That's my favorite title. It's just ridiculous.
It is. So it's part 1, final.
Yep, 3, part 1.
Yeah, and final. I mean, I've had the pleasure of reading a few of your scripts, and I know you have a really good one, Sanctuary Much.
Yes.
And again, just like those plays on words that you use, are really great, and I look forward to seeing that production. Who knows? Maybe I'll be casted in it.
Maybe.
You got to know the director or the writer, right?
I did submit this to the Exit 7 group. Mm-hmm. I applied as a director.
It's a full length.
It's a full length. It's 3 30-minute comedies, which I think are 3 of my better ones. And somebody's telling the story. It's a jazz band leader saying that everything that the movies can offer you, we can offer it to you too. And they do a murder mystery, a 30s screwball comedy, and a 80s teenage sex com.
Yep.
And it's all wrapped up, and I like it. I'm proud of it. And I told the Exit 7, I said, I know that I've got like a 4% chance of you doing an original play, but now I feel like I have a 9% chance now.
Yeah, it's definitely
because they've seen my work and they know that the audience likes it.
Yeah, the audience does like your work, that's for sure.
We'll see.
And you've always been a fan of the vaudeville kind of humor.
Yeah.
You've done vaudeville for years.
Routines, yep.
So, I know Ow Wow Wow was definitely had that feel. Sanctuary Much, after I've, read it, you have the three standout acts, but they flow very nicely together, and they are engaging. The characters are engaging, and, you just have, like I said, you have a niche for comedy, but you definitely have a talent for writing. I mean, because pages are pouring out of
Well, I admire people like you who can write books, because I would love to write a novel, but it's not me. I'm a dialogue guy, and I've tried. I've really wanted to, and I had 3 ideas I was working on and started. I'm like, I'm just not into describing the water bottle and the ceiling, and
yeah.
That's not.
Well, and I took a couple playwriting classes when I was working on April Rain to get that dialogue, to get my characters to talk to each other on the page, not just talk to me.
And one thing I'm proud of is
really
so many women have come to me and said, I really like your female characters. How do you, you're a guy, how do you come up with female characters? And of course we all think of that Jack Nicholson quote, but I don't go that way. I'm like, I just think females have the same dreams and fears that I do.
Of course.
And most of my female characters, they're strong and they don't put up with crap. And I love my female characters.
So
it was weird. What's like when Anna Banana finally got put on.
I love the Anna Banana. Both Anna.
She was one of my favorite characters I ever created. And when it was put on, and the director cast the girl, I'm like, I don't want to make this awkward, but I've waited such a long time to meet you. Would it be weird if I gave you a hug? And she's like, no. I'm like,
Yeah, no, I totally get that when you meet your character, like,
to
in
see
person.
something
like,
you create
wow.
come to life.
Manifest.
It's just, I love it. I'll never grow tired of that. And with the comedy, to hear the people laughing too, it is satisfying. Like going, this is alive and people are getting it. So that's nice.
Well, I do something kind of I don't know, unique, I guess, when I go to theater, and I've done this kind of my whole life. Like, I will always kind of make a mental note of when the audience is touched by something, whether it's tears, or just like that moment, of like that surprise. And I like, that. For comedies, I have this thing where I'll count how many times the audience laughs because I just catch on to it. And for Ow Wow Wow, I counted 100 laughs. I mean, it was like to the number. And part of me was like, I might have even like missed one or two because some of them overlapped each other. But I was like if I had a little ticker, it'd be like tick, 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 tick. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing. And then when I got to the 100 and it was like literally right at the end with, the last one was right when, she had the revealing moment with one of the parents. And I was like, oh my gosh, he just reached 100 laughs. And I'm like feeling like the Ghostbuster machine.
God bless you.
Just my weird
You did that when we had the reading for a musical that I wrote.
Oh, yes.
That was a good title, too. The Can't You Bury These Tales.
Yeah, Can't You Bury These Tales. And I think, of course, it's Canterbury Tales, but he has Can't You Bury These Tales. And as writers, I think we tend to do that in our stories, is we bury other stories within them. And, Battelle Arnold, who you also know is a playwright, she had written a book, Buried Beneath the Words. And it's so true because in the words that we're performing or writing, we're burying something else in there, whether it's something that's happened in our own life or for you showing, the history behind Bugs Bunny. It's like we're bearing other stories within the story, which just shares so much, So I really like, not just the title of Can't You Bury These Tales, but like, that play, that musical when, I was able to participate with you and my daughter too. So Thank you. She came in and we did some readings for that. And, it was just like fun to see those characters have voices.
Yeah, I mean...
And as a writer, we know, like, the voices that are in our head all the time, it's like, oh, let's get it to the page and then let someone else...
Well, some people say, like, where do you come up with your ideas and everything? And a lot of them is, like, life, there's ideas all around, and you pay attention once in a while, you say, okay, well, that might be funny. Or, which I've done a couple times, I've thought of some unusual things that happened in my life, whether it was my college girlfriend who went to a concert instead of... Well, tried to go to a concert. She didn't even get in the concert instead of going to an awards ceremony that I had. When a time I met this girl and she needed a ride the next day after meeting her. I'm like, well, this would be a nice time to get together. But then her friend came along for the ride. I mean, all these different things that have happened, and I think of them and then I exaggerate them. All right, this is because I think a lot of times we have all these great stories in our lives, and sometimes the real story is interesting enough to make a story, but sometimes they're not.
Sometimes you gotta have a little seasoning to it. You gotta spice it up.
Or a lot of it, but at least you have the foundation, and then you can, you have the car, but now you can jazz it up. You can paint it red and put flames on it and put the,
And you're a car lover.
Oh, yes. Yes, I love my 2 cars. They don't like each other, though.
The cars don't like each other. They're jealous of you, probably.
Jasmine, Sapphire, Firebird, and Charlotte Adele Lacrosse Super. And they don't.
So you've named your cars, but not just like some people just name it Sandy. You have like a full 4 or 5 names for it.
It's mostly Charlotte's fault. Jasmine's an old classic 87 GTA Trans Am.
How do you decide who to drive?
Well, mostly that's what I tell Charlotte. Jasmine has no problem with Charlotte. Charlotte's like, if you can use me every day, and I'm almost as fast as her. What do you need her for? I'm like, you knew coming in what was going on. You knew that. And then she makes up gossip about her, saying, her headlights aren't real. I'm like, nobody cares.
See, and this is the creative process of a writer's mind, And, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is how you got into playwriting, but we also know already that you revealed in high school you kind of started to go into this because of girls.
I wanted to impress a girl in
You wanted
college.
to impress a girl. You wanted to be with the girls on the stage. You wanted to watch the girls perform, and now you want to write for the girls so that they can perform. So you definitely have this calling to, help women.
Yes, that's right. Right. I mean, if my gosh, if some girl came up to me and said that, hey, Anna Banana, her real name is Annabelle Sorensen, is my hero. Like, we actually pitched, I made a teenage version of her, and we shot and we pitched it to the Disney Channel. And we never heard back from that. But because Dog with a Blog came on. And I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And my daughter and my wife said, oh, you think you can do better? I think I can do better. And so, I did that, and we filmed it, and we sent it in because we knew somebody there at the Disney Channel. And like, if you like it, will you show your boss? And she's like, yeah.
Well, and this is the thing is, as much as, wanting to ask you, like, how you go about pitching things like that, in this kind of industry, it is a lot about who you know.
Yep. You
to
can't
get
just,
in the door.
people say, I wrote that TV script, The P.I. and the Cat, which is fantastic. I love it. But people say, oh, you should go up to Netflix. I'm like, you can't just go up and say, Netflix, hey, look what I got.
Yeah, you can't look up a phone number for the pitching department. I mean, you have to kind of network it. I found that LinkedIn can be a really great source. And also, like, I'm part of Studio 32, and I do some things with the DreamReach Media, which is Dracius Sanctum. And, going into there, you get to meet people, and and it's not so much about meeting them to impress them. It's about having them kind of impress you, because, as much as you want to get your show on Netflix or get your show, to Broadway or whatever it is, you need to know if they're the right people for you. Is that the right studio you want to work with? Dan Davenport is with the Theater Maker Studio in New York, and seeing what he does, it's like, okay, well, you're doing comedy, and he did a Godspell. I mean, if he's producing Godspell, kind of tells you the genres and the niches that he's in, and you don't want to pitch someone who's not interested in what you're doing. I'll share when I did Dear Baby Get Out, and so I submitted this to a publisher before I self-published, and I sent it to them, and they sent me back a very nice, really great book, but I think you need to submit elsewhere because we only publish books for middle school age.
Yeah. Holy.
And I will say I didn't know that before I did it, but I also went in there going, okay, if your middle-aged students read this, they will think twice before, having a child out of wedlock or getting pregnant or, having sex at that age. And it was just kind of funny because I knew I'd be rejected, but it was one of those that I set myself up to be rejected so that I could accept it.
And you never know. Maybe someone say, hey, I know Arthur over at such and such.
Right, exactly. So
now,
they
this
can
is
refer
what we
you.
do. I mean, every time we've had lunch together a couple times, and the next thing we know, a whole hour's gone by. I'm just looking at the clock. Is there anything?
No, we're fine.
Okay, good. I didn't know if there was anything that
no,
needed to...
Michael and I started meeting, I don't know, a year or so ago, kind of sort of weekly or monthly. We're calling ourselves the MGM Writers. We meet at MGM in Springfield. And, M for Michael and G for Grout and... M for making stuff up.
Yeah, there you go.
And I keep saying, MGM Springfield, we want to create something to put this place on the map more than just a casino. There's movie theaters there.
Some people call it the MGM. I call it my ATM.
It is your ATM because he is a little bit of a gambler.
I've got certain math skills.
I am not. So, so we've talked about, your writing. We've talked about your play that you just won this, People's Choice Award, Tony Award at Exit 7 in Ludlow, and Sanctuary Much, which is going places. on top of doing all of this and being a morning host on the radio, you also are involved in a new restaurant that's going to be opening.
Oh, yes. My family, we're restoring the Summers Inn in Summers, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're shooting for April.
Maybe. And it's called the
IRONFOX Steakhouse at the Summers Inn.
Yeah,
we wanted to bring back the original name because the last owners changed it and people didn't like that.
Yeah, so we're going to be able to see you at the IRONFOX Steakhouse.
Yeah, maybe we can do some theater there too.
And yeah, I think that, it's going to be a good place to hopefully, throw you up on stage or throw your characters up on stage, and maybe we'll all be able to meet Anna Banana.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I'm a big fan of the show, so this
Thank
was kind of cool to finally be asked to be on it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in today to yWrite. I want to thank Studio 954 for making this possible. And I, want to say that you have a story inside of you because you've tuned into this show. And maybe Michael's writing that story, and one of these days you're going to see it on a stage. Who knows? Maybe it's in one of the books that I've written. But either way, I want you to start writing your story down. And in honor of the inspiration that Michael has given us today, I'm going to give you a writing prompt. So this is the time of the program where, I want you to set your timer for, 5 or 10 minutes, pick up your pen, grab your paper, and just start writing. Don't criticize what you're writing. Don't edit what you're writing. Just let that pen flow. And what I want you to talk about on this paper is that inner dialogue that you have with yourself with something in the room. Create a character with something in the room. Who knows? Maybe you're going to have a little Tony Award sitting right on your desk. And, just talk to Tony. And you and Tony have a nice conversation, create some dialogue, and you might have the next play that we're going to see at Exit 7. Thank you so much for tuning into yWrite. I will see you next time.